All right, guys, we're back in a white Toyota, but we're not just in any white Toyota today. Today we're in Harry's first gen Tundra, and the topic of the day is going to be Minimalist Overlanders again. This is a pretty cool little beast that I'm driving today. We're going up to shoot some videos. We're going to shoot a little walk around of his Ram with the North Star camper on the back and 37-inch Nittos. And then we're going to shoot a walk around of this vehicle, which on the outside, honestly, if you're looking at it, doesn't look like much of anything really. But there are a lot of hidden features that make this a pretty spectacular Overlander, as I'm learning driving it today for the first time up on Hunter Creek Road. Here we are, almost at our spot. This is the spot we filmed the Coolers video. If you want to see the video I was talking about on this Ram truck, check out the Driving Line YouTube channel, and it'll all be there. Search for Harry Situations and you'll see it. Okay, let's get into it. What do you think minimalism, like what does that really mean to you in respect to a vehicle like that?
I think the important part is that you're going all these places. So you're going the same place that someone that has solar panels and a rooftop tent and all the other things goes, but you don't have those things.
Because you don't really need it all the time.
Well, spoiler, huh?
Right.
It's as important what isn't on the vehicle as what is on it, but I bought this truck. It's a 2002. I bought it about 3 years ago with 150,000 miles on it. Now I've put another 60,000 miles on it. It's been all the way down to Cabo San Lucas. It's been to Mexico several times. I didn't necessarily buy it as an Overlander, but I've certainly done a lot of camping out of it. I use it as my daily driver, and as the mileage shows, I mean, I put more miles on this thing than anything else. People that have been watching for a while know I own a lot of clown cars. I own a lot of things that are more capable than this, but this sort of is the sweet spot between comfort and capability. I only paid $8,000 for the truck when I bought it.
That's good.
So this is Toyota's 2UZ engine, 4.7 liter V8. It's not huge, but it makes good power. I've been really happy with it. It does use a timing belt instead of a chain. It had been changed when I had bought the truck because it had 150,000 miles on it. When it got to 200,000 miles, at B-Rad's Customs, Brad replaced it again. Other maintenance things I've had to do have been pretty minimal. I had some cooling issues. The radiator was all clogged up, so we replaced the radiator. So at the same time the timing belt was done, the water pump was also changed. Now it runs nice and cool.
Okay.
It's got a 4-speed automatic, it's 4-wheel drive, IFS, a lot of scaled up parts from a Tundra, like it uses or a Tacoma rather. It uses the 8.4-inch rear end, the same 7.5-inch front diff, so a lot of interchangeability. I'd really like to have an 04 to 06. They have the iForce V8, so significantly more horsepower with the variable valve timing, and then they had a 5-speed. So maybe a double cab Tundra from 04 to 06 will replace this if it ever wears out. So when I bought this truck, it had really faded headlight housings. I got these aftermarket housings from Rock Auto, which look a lot better. I also added HID bulbs. Honestly, the pattern out of these is not great. I probably wouldn't do that over again if I had a choice, but they get the job done. And this is a Baja Designs high power light bar. One of the things I like about Baja Designs as opposed to other light bars is they use a lot bigger reflector, and so that allows them to throw light further down the road even with the same number of lumens. So I've been really impressed with this. I think they're one of the best ones on the market, if not the best. Right. But factory bumper, factory grille, no winch, no aftermarket bumper.
Right.
Yeah, I think if you're in a place like the Black Rock Desert at night, down in Mexico where there's cattle on the road, it's really come in handy. This is wired up where it's with the high beams. You turn the high beams on and the light bar comes on. I don't love that. I actually used a factory switch, well, Slee Off-Road wired my lights that I had on my 3rd Gen 4Runner, and those you turned on the high beams and then you had to turn on the lights separately, but if you turn off the high beams, the auxiliary lights would turn off at the same time. Okay. So like if there was oncoming traffic.
Right, just kill them both.
Right, because if you're driving on the street with this and you have the high beams on, the light bar is on, which is not particularly legal or particularly helpful in a lot of places.
No,
yeah,
so you don't get to use your high beams on the road.
Basically, yeah, which is which is a compromise. We wired that up at the last minute before going to the Baja 1000 a couple years ago, and I haven't got around to fixing it yet.
Right.
It does have rock sliders. My friend Dylan McFarland built those custom sliders on it. He uses 2x2 box tubing and turns it up at an angle at 45 degrees, kind of like a boat side there. And then it has 33-inch Falcon Wild Peak AT3Ws.
Right.
Falcon's all-weather tire. That's a 285/75/16.
Okay.
So a little bit bigger than stock tire. And these TRD wheels that I had on, I had a 3rd gen 4Runner like you have.
Right.
I had a 1st gen Tacoma. I had these wheels on there. I sell the vehicles, but I never sell the wheels because I really like them. With the brakes that are on this, you can fit a 16-inch wheel, and that gives you more sidewall, which really comes in handy when you're running down trails out in the backcountry.
Right.
I'm a really big fan of these folding tonneau covers. This particular one is a backflip 2. The thing I really like about it is that it opens all the way up to the front of the cab. You can even hold it in place here and have access to the entire bed. I had an X-Stang on my Ram, and it was a tri-fold, and the front part was fixed, so you really couldn't access the front third of the bed, which was sort of a limiting factor. I mean, it was really robust and it was pretty inexpensive and simple to install, but having the ability to access the whole bed is a pretty big deal. This is where I store a bunch of my gear, is at the front of the bed. These cargo bars are pretty inexpensive, and I find they come in handy for everything from your camping gear to storing a load if you're moving tires or whatever you happen to be using. So this is a big plus. I keep my recovery gear in here, this bag from Total Chaos. I've got a bubba rope in there, some soft shackles, and then I also have my air hose and the filler gauge for the onboard air system. And I just have a ratchet strap going across here with a Rotopax, and then a set of Max Tracks and my Demos shovel there. Funny story about this, I was on the Rebel Rally last year. We were down at Big Dune outside of Beatty, and there was a BLM officer in a Super Duty truck that was stuck in the sand. I told him, I'll go and help you. And he thought, what are you gonna do? You don't have anything with you. You're in a much smaller truck than mine. But we were able to air down his tires, dig him out with the Demos shovel, and use the Max Tracks, and got him out. It was great. Yeah, so I actually do carry Max Tracks with me. I do carry a Rotopax with fuel in it. Although this has a pretty big tank, I don't have the range issues I had with that 3rd gen 4Runner, which I think have like a 16-gallon tank. Mine was smashed and was smaller, unfortunately, because it's the lowest hanging thing on the vehicle. Right. This thing has like, I want to say a 24-gallon tank. Okay. The range is about 350 miles, I found, which was a lot more than I had in my 4Runner, certainly.
Right. There's some more interesting things going on with suspension.
Absolutely. That's where I spent the bulk of my money on aftermarket parts. So $8,000 was the purchase price. I've spent about $5,000 modifying the vehicle, and the bulk of that has been suspension and wheels. Or tires rather. I'm not counting the wheels because I already had those. So I've owned a bunch of vehicles, and things like lockers, things like winches are cool, but you really don't use them very much, especially the way I use this vehicle. We have so many trails in the Sierras where if you get off the pavement, you're away from the generators and the RVs, and you don't really have to go very far or on very difficult trails in order to get a spot to yourself where you're in solitude and it's quiet. So that's really what I use this truck for. To me, that's what overlanding is. Right. And something like suspension you use every day. So I think buying high quality shock absorbers and suspension components are definitely money well spent. Even if you're just going down the freeway, you will notice the difference. My background's in rock crawling, and you just bolt on the longest Rancho shock you could fit and go down the trail. And the first time I got a set of high quality shock absorbers, it blew my mind. So I've used Icons, I have Fox shocks on my Ram, I had Kings on my Tacoma, I've got ADS shocks on my Tracker, and this actually has ADS coilovers on it as well, and then 2.5-inch remote reservoir shocks in the back. And the deciding factor there for me was availability. So when I bought Fox shocks for my Ram, it took over 6 months to get this off-the-shelf part number. Really? And these ADS shocks, again, getting ready for the Baja 1000, I ordered them. 3 weeks later, they showed up. Samco Fabrication installed them. I've got Deaver leaf springs in the back. That's the one thing, if I had to do over again, I don't think I would spend the money. They're pretty expensive. And the load carrying capacity, if I hook up a trailer behind this, it's just on the bump stops. You spend the money and make a compromise, I don't think that's something I would do again.
Right.
In the front, I have Specialty Products upper control arms.
Right.
So those are adjustable to set your caster and camber, and then they actually have it's not a uniball, it uses still a tie rod end, but it is high misalignment. You're going to be traveling faster, fatigue is less of an issue.
On your body.
Absolutely, yeah, it's just more comfortable. So I use this vehicle in the sand dunes when we chase for the Rebel Rally. We go down a lot of washboard roads, the same down in Baja, and it just makes it a lot more comfortable. You're able to travel at a higher rate of speed.
Right.
So all of the wiring and plumbing for the air compressor is under the hood here. Nothing goes into the cab, which was my preference. You have to pop the hood in order to air up, but I didn't feel like that was that big of a compromise. I'm not doing it going down the street. I don't have air lockers or anything like that. So the switch is right here. B-Rad's Customs made this little bracket, put the gauge for the air compressor. This is a Vire's Extreme compressor here, the 650C. It works really well, pretty fast. Pressure switch right here. And then there actually is a tank inside the frame rail underneath the truck. And so that really is helpful for if you need to run air tools or you need to reseat a bead, having that compressed air inside the tank versus just the compressor will allow that rush of air for those sort of things. If you're airing up, there's not enough air in the tank to get all 4 tires. Maybe the first one goes more quickly, but then you're just relying on the compressor. But for some of these other tasks, it really comes in handy. So this system came with that yellow coiled hose you see a lot with air kits. I'm not a big fan. I just went to Lowe's and I got this flexible air line that I think is a lot easier to work with. Goes right in here. You're ready to air up. Yeah, so Relentless Fabrication made this skid plate. It's pretty low profile. It works with the factory bumper, which I like. Regrettably, they don't seem to make it anymore. They've been focusing a lot on late model 4Runners and Tacomas. They even picked up a Colorado ZR2 recently. Local Reno company, and they're doing really well. They're going gangbusters, which I'm happy for. I've been really pleased with this. It's just stronger than stock. If you make impacts, then it's going to protect the front diff and the suspension components, which is a nice sense of security. The downside is it is fairly heavy, so when you need to take it on and off, you need help. So this truck's an access cab. I have had 4 people in here, but I don't really recommend it. When I first got the truck, I actually pulled the seats out of the back, thinking that I would have more storage space. And what I found was it made the interior really loud, so I needed all of that foam insulation on the back of the cab in order to keep it quiet. So now I just put my fridge back there. I've got a box with tools, a jump pack under the seat. I carry a little first aid kit and some ratchet straps. For years, well, over a decade, I had a 50-quart ARB fridge, and I recently upgraded to their 0 series fridge. The jury's still out. We'll see if it's better. It has a tough act to follow, to be quite honest, but so far so good. I've been really pleased with this fridge as well. So you can fold up the center console and have a third person sit here, but this really is your cup holder, and it comes in handy to store little things. My garage door opener is in there, nuts and bolts, things like that. But the best bang for the buck is this Home Essentials basket from Target, because there's really just unused space here in between the seats. So I just put this basket here, shove the seat up, and I've got some dog treats for the dog. My mask is here. I have a rugged radio that I'll use when we're using this as a chase truck that I put in there, and it just kind of is a carry-all. Tumblers that are too big for the cup holders, and honestly, I don't know what I did without it. This is what Minimalist Overlander is all about. If you've seen the inside of a stock Tundra, then you've seen what this looks like. There's not really much to show you. I had a 3rd Gen 4Runner, and I was really fond of that truck. And this is sort of nostalgic for me because the layout's exactly the same, so it's super intuitive, but even the air compressor isn't even wired into here. It's under the hood. The lights for the light bar are hooked up to the factory switch. I did add a trailer brake controller. I do tow with this sometimes, and I find if you have any sort of load behind it, the factory brakes aren't enough to stop the trailer. So that really comes in handy, but otherwise, what you see is what you get. I think there's this perception in the overland community that you need a bunch of mole with things strapped to it and all the patches, and those are cool. I mean, that's an aesthetic, you know. If you like it, cool, but don't feel like you have to have that or that you have to have a rooftop tent in order to go overlanding, because you don't. This truck's super reliable. That's the most important thing. It fits my gear in it. That's the second most important thing. And there hasn't been anywhere that I've wanted to go that I couldn't because I didn't have a rooftop tent or I didn't have solar panels on my truck.
So if I'm being completely honest, when I made that first Minimalist Overlander video with my 4Runner, it was partially just to slap that Minimalist hashtag on there and get a lot of views. And honestly, it did work. Got a lot of views, and I think people are searching for a Minimalist Overlander. People are looking for something that's a lot simpler than a lot of the vehicles that you see going down the road, with a lot of stuff bolted to the outside, a lot of aftermarket accessories. And I just wanted to show people that, you know, you can get up some pretty gnarly roads if you have a 4Runner or Tundra. So Harry was pretty stoked on that concept and wanted to show me this Tundra that he built sort of along those same lines. It's got just enough modifications to make it really useful. I thought it was really interesting. Love this truck. It's been a lot of fun driving it today. It's very comfortable, and I can see a lot here that I want to incorporate into my vehicle. So if you have a vehicle like this that you really think fits this overlanding, this minimalist overlanding ethic, this concept, hey, let me know. Post in the comments and maybe we'll meet up and shoot a video. Otherwise, we'll see you in the mountains. Happy trails.